What is up? Welcome to the episode. Today we're going to be chatting about my sober September experience. I think that sober October is more of a thing. However, I was feeling the September setup. So technically, the last time that I had a drink was on September 6th. And so it's been a little over a month now, and wow, seeing lots of things for myself. And I've gone 30 plus days without booze quite a few times. I'm sure I've gone months and months at some points. However, I haven't really formally tracked it before. But regardless, I always learn a ton. So I wanted to share some of those insights with you. As I've mentioned on the pod before, I used to have a bit of an issue with alcohol. And fortunately, I've had it under wraps for the most part for years now. However, from time to time, I do still find myself susceptible to slipping back into old patterns if I'm unaware. And funny enough, it typically happens when I'm in Vancouver. I'm originally from Van and I travel for half of the year, and I find that I tend to drink quite a bit more when I'm in Canada, which may sound somewhat counterintuitive, especially because I've spent so much time in Mexico, which folks tend to associate with, Corona, tequila, and partying. But for me, environment-wise, it's been more of a challenge in Vancouver. So I tend to drink far less when I'm out of country. And I think that there are a number of reasons for this. However, environment is a massive one because we have really powerful associations with physical places. And being that I grew up in Vancouver, I've got plenty of friends there, my family is there, I just tend to indulge in alcohol much more so versus when I'm on the road. Now, I originally thought that I was going to do a pros and cons list in regards to drinking versus not drinking over the last 30-ish days, but that felt too restrictive, binary, hot, cold, black, white. So what I'm going to do instead is just share my perspective with you on how I've been thinking about, approaching, and reflecting on this whole booze thing. First off, beer is delicious. I love craft beer, and I also really enjoy red wine. And so the taste is something that I have missed over the last month. But to be honest, I haven't missed it as much as I thought that I would have. And I've definitely noticed it most when I'm out for meals. However, I've typically just been going for something like a Topo Chico or anything that gives me some bite and isn't just flat water. Non-alcoholic beer is technically an option, but it just doesn't have the same taste. So I prefer to skip out altogether versus go for a non-alcoholic option. So the taste is something that I've missed, but again, not as much as I thought that I would have. Likely the biggest adjustment has been a social one because alcohol is weaved into the fabric of our society in such an incessant way. It is wild because alcohol is a very powerful drug, but we don't really think about it like a drug. We even say alcohol and drugs, even though it's a redundant term. We essentially separate it from other drugs because it's just that common. And the association with the word drug is typically bad, and the association around alcohol is neutral at the absolute worst. So socially, it's been an adjustment. And I have gone out without drinking, and I do find that I tend to end the night a lot earlier just because typically around 10, 11 p.m. the quality of conversations tends to nosedive just because people get more and more intoxicated by that time. And also without alcohol to essentially keep me going energy-wise, I just feel kind of tired at that point and I'm ready to shut things down. For me, this has been the best of both worlds because I haven't forced myself to stay out later. I've just called it quits when I'm not feeling it anymore. And to be honest, I haven't had any sort of FOMO or fear of missing out at all. It's been the opposite in the sense that I'm so enjoying waking up the next day and feeling awesome that it's been a welcomed trade-off. And also FOMO is a bit of a limited perspective in my opinion, just because fear of missing out on what, right? Whenever you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something else and vice versa. So for example, if I say yes to a bunch of drinks, I'm saying no to feeling great the next day. And so it just really depends on what you're looking at in terms of quote unquote missing out. And it all boils back down to priorities at the end of the day. Like I mentioned, environment is massive in terms of habits and behavior, and I'll give you an example that I just experienced. A few weeks ago, I met a buddy of mine in Playa del Carmen, and we hadn't seen each other in about a year or so, and we met at a restaurant, and I got there first. I ordered a sparkling water, and then I looked at the menu and I saw that they had a couple of really nice craft beers. So I started asking the server about where they were from in Mexico, what type they were, if they were hoppy, boozy, what flavor profile they had, all the nerdy beer goodies that I'm interested in. Then I mentioned to the server that I might end up ordering a beer, but I was going to wait for my friend Ted to show up because I wasn't sure if he was going to be drinking or not. And when he got to the restaurant, he also ordered a sparkling water and didn't order an alcoholic bevy, which, to be perfectly honest, if he had ordered a beer, I 100% would have too, but he didn't. So it just made that decision so much easier in the sense that I really didn't want a beer that bad, and I wasn't about to drink alone. Now, we tend to think about our environment as a physical location. However, the people that you spend time with are included under that environment umbrella because you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And if you spend a whole bunch of time with heavy drinkers, I would bet that you're probably not going to be sober, which isn't bad by any means. But if you want to drink less, hanging out with heavy drinkers in bars probably isn't the way to go about it, especially if this is something that you're new to or you're looking at implementing. This is one of the primary, if not the fundamental reason why folks find it so difficult not to drink. Their social connection, which we absolutely need as animals, is wrapped up in a blanket of alcohol consumption. People who drink hang out with people who drink. And it can be really difficult to alter your behavior, stay friends with the same people, and committed to that behavior change due to our need for social connection, because it's sort of like a booze or friend situation, or at least it feels that way. Do I stay at home and do absolutely nothing on a Friday night, or do I go out with my friends, drink, sabotage my goals, and feel hungover the next day? Of course, there is a middle ground here, but again, it can be really hard to stay aware and committed enough in a social setting like that. The same goes for food. Super fit people don't tend to hang out with super unfit people and vice versa. The saying, great minds think alike, is a saying for a reason. We like to spend time with people that have similar opinions, hobbies, priorities, and interest to us. Now, if you can get one of your friends to participate in something like a Sober October or whatever with you, super powerful. Accountability is massive. And it's also a vital part of why my clients have so much fat loss and lifestyle change success. Because yes, my methods are really effective, but also I'm there to guide and support them when they need it. So if possible, I'd recommend putting something or someone in place to support you if at any point you decide to take something like this on. Another thing to acknowledge is just that if you drink, you know that drinking is fucking fun. Like, let's not pretend that it's not, because being buzzed feels amazing. I love that feeling. But it does, of course, like anything, come at a cost. And what I've noticed is that yes, boozing is really enjoyable and it feels great in the moment. However, when I take a step back and look at the area under the curve in regards to feeling good, I've gotten so much more feel-good time than I typically would over the last month in the big picture. For example, if I go out and have, 5 to 6 beers, it's a blast and I feel really good while I'm drinking for that evening. But man, I don't feel back to 100% for at least 24 hours, but it's often more. And so if we just look at this on a time scale, for myself, it's like a 2-to-1 ratio, sometimes even a 3-to-1 ratio, depending on how much I drink in regards to how long it takes for me to recover fully. The more alcohol I consume, the longer it takes for me to get back to baseline physically, mentally, and emotionally. And to be honest, physically, hangovers aren't much of an issue for myself. but mentally and emotionally, holy shit, it's bad. I'm anxious even though there is no reason to be, meaning that it's just chemical and how alcohol impacts my brain. You've probably heard the borrowing happiness from tomorrow term. Having an extra good time on a Friday night often means having an extra worse time on a Saturday. And unfortunately, that extra worse time tends to drag out longer from a time perspective than the extra good time, or at least it feels that way from a perception standpoint. I've also noticed that it's been more effortless to maintain my body composition, shocker, and my workouts have been even better, which is super cool and totally makes sense just because alcohol contains a ton of calories and therefore I've been able to eat more food yet actually get leaner because I'm no longer drinking my calories via booze. Big bonus there. Workout wise, I just feel better day to day. And so the quality of my workouts has increased quite a bit, which is also a contributor to better body comp. The sleep benefits have been incredible. I can't emphasize this one enough. It's been an absolute game changer on multiple levels. I feel better, of course. I'm more alert. I'm more productive with work. My memory is improved, which totally makes sense because sleep and memory are very tightly linked. And so my retention via anything that I'm learning is even better, which I absolutely love. I also feel like I have more time, and this is due to a couple of things. One is I'm finding that I actually need fewer total sleep hours because my sleep quality has increased so much due to shifting the timing in which I'm sleeping, and also just because alcohol itself is not messing with my sleep cycles. Timing wise, I'm finding that I'm going to bed at say 10 or 10:30, and then I'm ready to roll typically by 5 or 5:30 in the morning. And man, mornings are just special. My relationship with mornings has gotten so much better over the years, and I'm going to bed feeling excited to wake up, do some journaling, drink my coffee, and then dig into my day. It's been really cool. Also, I've noticed that I've felt a lot more stable mentally and emotionally. So I'm finding it very easy to predict how I'm going to feel on a day-to-day basis versus sometimes alcohol hits you differently, right? Like depending on how much you've eaten, how late of a night that you had, and of course, how much you actually drink. But it's just far more difficult to predict how I'm going to feel after X amount of drinks versus without booze entirely, being that I know that I'm going to get a great sleep and wake up with zero hangover, grogginess, moodiness, etc. I'm digging that. Productivity wise, I am so much more efficient. It's insane. I've seen such a big improvement that I'm honestly surprised. It's been night and day. And I think that the key difference is that I'm procrastinating far less, which leads to getting things done much quicker and also just more efficiently. I'm also waking up earlier with essentially zero distractions at 5 a.m., which is huge too, because very few people are up. And so, for example, social media isn't nearly as much of a pull when everyone else is sleeping. Now, my clients always come first in regards to my work, and that's never changed. But I also really enjoy putting out content for you guys because I not only want to share this stuff, but I feel like I kind of have to, because if I don't get it out of my head, I feel somewhat incomplete and unaccomplished. For example, I really enjoy putting this podcast together and filming my 60 seconds or less series that gives you guys quick and actionable tips to implement in your life. And I find that if I've slept poorly or I'm still not back at 100% due to post-weekend alcohol consumption, I just don't end up filming as many videos or putting out as much content. And let's just say that I film 2 fewer videos per week because of that. That's over 100 videos per year that you're not benefiting from, and I'm not feeling like I'm contributing as much as I could. And when I thought about it that way, it really clicked for me because on a day-to-day or weekly basis, it's like, what's 2 vids a week, right? But that translates to over 100 videos per year. That is legit. And even one 60-second video, a post, or a podcast episode with the right message that you need to hear at the right time can literally change your life. It's entirely possible that this podcast episode shifts the trajectory of your life. And so, this reflection has actually been something that's held me accountable in the sense that I want to contribute as much as possible, and contributing just makes me feel good, which has been really, really cool. Another thing that I've noticed is that my weekends actually feel like weekends because whenever I drink consistently, I feel like I'm playing catch up on a Monday and potentially even a Tuesday as far as getting back to baseline with the way that I feel. Whereas this past month, my weekends serve their purpose, which is to rest and recharge. They also feel much longer, which is amazing because I feel great for the entire thing. I'm finding that my weekends are feeling less and less different from my weekdays, which sounds like it's sort of contradicting the point that I just made, but I mean it in the sense that I feel awesome every day, and therefore my sense of well-being is far more consistent, which now doesn't change as much on a weekday versus a weekend. So that's been cool. Now, I want to be sure not to paint the picture that it's been all roses, right? Because life is hard enough as it is, and taking on something like this essentially welcomes issues up to the surface because there's a reason why we drink, right? Sometimes it can just purely be for fun, socially, and all that good stuff. But not in every case. And so some folks may notice things like social anxiety come to the forefront, or anger, sadness, fear, all sorts of different emotions. And for me, it's actually been loneliness. And you might be thinking, well, no shit, Marcus, that's because you're in another country away from your family and friends. And it turns out that that's not why. Reason being is, I have had times where I've felt just as lonely in Vancouver as I have in Mexico or California or Colombia, wherever. For me, it's not actually location dependent because, wherever you go, there you are, right? And I'm very comfortable socializing and making conversation in virtually any situation. And so that's not the issue. Also, because I've had moments where I've checked in with myself and I've even felt lonely surrounded by people that I love, literally sitting in the same room as me. So I understand that this feeling of loneliness stems from inside, and I've used alcohol, among other things, to mask that loneliness a lot in my life. And so this has been an amazing opportunity for me to address, feel, and deal with some of it. I've still got more work to do, but fortunately, this experience has really helped me to move in the right direction with it. It's been painful. I'm not going to lie. I've shed plenty of tears and felt emotions like despair and helplessness and all sorts of things. But just by taking this Sober September experience on, I said yes to addressing those underlying unresolved emotions. And it's been really difficult, but so rewarding at the same time. And fortunately, I have support because I work with a therapist twice per month, and he's been helping me a ton as far as an objective outside eye. He's also got expertise, of course, and him and I were chatting about this just the other day. We were touching on how you just can't do this shit alone. Like, if you're reading self-help books, that's awesome, but you are you. And so your ability to quote unquote help yourself is so limited that I can't even begin to explain to what degree. And we see this in so many areas of our life, nutrition being one of them, right? My clients get better results than folks that attempt this stuff on their own for the most part. Because for one, most people don't have the knowledge to know what to do effectively, which makes complete sense because you likely don't know how to fix your car or wire your house electrically. We have experts for a reason. And my therapist has supported me a ton in that sense. And two, your ability to examine your behavior, actions, and just life objectively is heavily limited. So to say that my therapist has been a catalyst to change my life for the better is a gross understatement. I can't recommend therapy enough. So taking on this Sober September dealio has been an amazing learning and growing experience because it's literally saying, hey, issues, come up, come to the forefront, punch me in the face. I'm ready for you. I'm not going to avoid. I'm not going to deny or rationalize. I've seen that by saying no to alcohol, I'm saying yes to more personal growth. As a side note, we tend to have three ways in which we deal with difficult issues. One is avoidance, the second is denial, and the third is rationalization. And let's use alcohol as an example here. Avoidance would be knowing deep down that there's an issue, but simply continuing on with what you're doing and ignoring all of the signs that life is giving you along with your intuition, which, fuck man, that one hurts the most. It feels the worst because it's like a personal betrayal. Like when you know something is off, there's a leak in your basement, for example, and every day you're just like, I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. That shit weighs on you. And the only way to truly tell how much it's weighing on you is by addressing it, because it may have been there for so long that you don't know yourself without it at this point. Denial is a really clear one. You're thinking, I don't have a problem, and there's like 30 empties sitting on the counter behind you. Now, rationalization is interesting because we're so good at it. Actually, I take that back. We think that we're good at it. A lot of humans, if not all of us, can rationalize to the point of legit insanity. Things can be so incredibly clear from the outside to other people in our lives, and yet we just choose to provide X, Y, and Z reasons for our behavior. And we accept that. And my favorite way to think about rationalizing is that we tell ourselves rational lies. It's in the word, right? Now, the truth is, if we're avoiding, denying, or rationalizing something, it's just not a priority. And that's okay, because we tend to address things when we're ready to. So, if you decide to give up booze for a bit, here's how I'd recommend setting yourself up for success. I touched on this one earlier. Accountability is massive just because so many of us find it difficult to be accountable to ourselves, and therefore putting someone or something in place will help a ton. There is a reason why folks in AA have sponsors. Also, know that it's quite possibly going to be hard. Issues are going to come to the surface because instead of avoiding, rationalizing, or denying, you're saying yes to whatever may come up and addressing this stuff head on. Be sure to be mindful of meeting your needs in terms of social connection, because it is so fundamental to us as humans that if you cut it out along with alcohol, the alcohol will make its way back into the picture in full force, because the evolutionary need for social connection is so strong. So be sure to fill your social bucket via still hanging out with friends, family, and all that good stuff. Stay busy. Go on hikes and walks, and you can even be a tourist in your own city. There are so many things to do on a day-to-day basis, so keeping yourself occupied shouldn't be an issue. However, if alcohol does play a really big role in your life, you might find this transition a little more difficult just because you're like, shit, what do I do if I don't drink? In the literal drinking sense, non-alcoholic beer is an option. Things like Topo Chico, zero-calorie drinks, water, heavy on the lemon or lime. There are more delicious alternatives than ever. So you've got a bunch of options as far as finding a physical replacement for alcohol, i.e. liquid. Big picture, Sober September was a massive win. I'm stoked that I did it. And as far as my relationship with alcohol moving forward goes, whether I'm going to drink or what, I don't have a set plan. I can say that I have zero desire to have a drink today, but that may change tomorrow. So I'm open to being super flexible with all of this stuff. Now, if you have any questions at all as far as the who, what, where, when, why, and how, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you because I think that taking things on like this have massive growth opportunities to them. And that's the whole reason why I started this podcast to begin with, bettering yourself on the daily. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. Follow me up on Instagram at N1Fitness, on TikTok at the N1Fitness, and feel free to friend me on Facebook at Marcus Sadu. Thank you so much to the folks that have taken 30 to 60 seconds out of their day to leave a review on their favorite podcast platform. I truly and genuinely appreciate you. Lastly, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this useful, and I will catch you on the next episode. See ya.